So a two-step equation means that you got to do two things to get the variable by itself. And here's how a two-step equation works. You're picking one of these and pairing it with one of these. That's all. Remember that? So you're either going to do an addition, multiplication equation, or an addition, division, or a subtraction with a multiplication, or a subtraction with a division. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I were to say, let's take one of the equations that we did already. The one-step equation we did was x plus 3 equals negative 4. So that's a one-step equation, right? Now let's make it a two-step equation, right? So literally adding a coefficient in front of that x now means, okay, not only do I have to subtract 3 from both sides, then I got to turn around and divide both sides by 3. Okay? So do it. All right? So let's talk about this. A lot of kids, when they're first learning about this, they get kind of confused in what to do first. Do I divide by 3 first, or do I, let's take and make this an 8 because I don't want you to. Do I divide by 8 or subtract 3 first? And I always say cancel the constant. And then somebody says to me, I thought you had to do multiplication and division before you did addition and subtraction. So I'm pleasantly pleased that they're at least remembering something. And it actually is great that they ask that, because this is what I say to them. You're right, you usually do. But I want you to think about what it is you do when you solve an equation. Think about a knot. I know we've all untangled knots before, right? Whether it was our shoelaces or a silver chain or something. So I want you to picture somebody putting a knot into a rope and then recording it. And then rewinding that. So every shoelace that went this way and this way, picture it being undone, right? Isn't that how you undo a knot? So this is what this equation means. I'm thinking of a variable. I multiply that variable by 8. I add 3 to that product, and I get negative 4. What number am I? So to solve that variable riddle, don't you go backwards? Don't you start with negative 4 and undo instead of adding 3, you subtract 3 from it? And then instead of multiplying by 8, don't you divide by 8? So you're undoing that knot. So does now that make sense why you would undo that order of operations backwards? Because you're going in reverse order. So that's the answer to that. We would undo, so start with the canceling out the constant first. And I'm glad this came up, because when I divide both sides by 8, we were working on mixed numbers. Like as a 7th grader, you're like, mixed numbers, big numbers. So they want to make this 1 and 7/8, or 1 and 1/8. So they're kind of confused on when to make it a mixed number and when not to. That's just a proper fraction. That means out of 8 slices, I have 7. Your answer is just 7/8. Don't change it, because it can't be changed. Got it? So that's an example of multiplication with addition. Let's do a division with subtraction. This one's kind of tricky. If I were to take 4 minus x over 2 equals negative 10. Okay. This one's a little tricky in the fact that you cancel out the constant, okay? So this is what happens when there's no sign in front of it. It's like a plus, right? So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Now be careful, because that's going to leave you with negative x over 2 equals, and this is why I don't like that line, because I want you to know that that's a negative 4 plus a negative, or negative 10 plus a negative 4, which is negative 14, not 40. And I did it this way on purpose because now it's like, what do you do? Well, I need to tell you a little something about the negative. It's flighty. It can go wherever it wants to go. You can have the half. You can have it with that. You could have it with the denominator. If it doesn't want to make a decision on where it wants to go, it can go right in the middle. And so don't ever ask me, is the 1 negative or is the 2 negative? Because guess what? 1/2 is an amount that is representing one value. It just uses 2 separate digits, right? And the fact that there's a big old separating fraction bar makes people think, well, they're totally separate from each other. No, they're not. They're 2 digits acting as one amount. Would you ever ask me, Mrs. Z, is the 1 negative or is the 5 negative? It's 2 digits acting as one amount, right? So that's why the negative sign can go wherever you want it to go. So now when I look up here, and I have to decide what to multiply both sides by, let's say that the negative was even with the x. Don't I want that negative gone? So what should I multiply by if I want it gone? The negative 2. If there is a negative anywhere, you want it gone. So cancel the 2's and cancel the negatives, and x is equal to positive 28. Okay? You can check yourself by saying 4 minus 28 over 2. Does that equal negative 10? Does 4 minus 14 equal negative 10? Yes. Okay? So check is a very good way for you to do that. Okay, questions on that? 2-step equations. So just make sure you combine what you know about your 1-step equations and just do it in 2 separate problems. Okay?